Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name's Wraith, and today I'm going to be giving a updated version on how to beat Angmar 2022. Because I've had a lot of questions recently on how to beat this particular faction. Because ever since all the good factions lost the Lady of Light being able to spam her in every single one of your lists, everyone else is picking up Angmar. So how do we stop this? Well, I've got a few points. As an Angmar player, I'm going to pass on my knowledge of what I don't want to happen to my Angmar. At the moment, I don't really play Angmar that much because everyone and their mother is now currently playing them. And that's boring. Okay, and plus, they can be a bit feel bad sometimes. I get it. I've been on the receiving end of Angmar, but I also know how to deal with them. So, and don't worry, I'm not going to be spamming like the same thing over and over again. Okay, banishment will come up once in this video. It's cool. Okay, I'll mention it. Done. The other thing you have to bear in mind is some factions are not very good at dealing with Angmar, okay? And that's just the way it is. Some factions aren't very good at dealing with elves, okay? They're good at dealing with everything, but they won't deal well with elves. Some factions can deal with dwarves, but they can't deal with hordes of goblins. So your faction does come into play here. I will try and cover as many different factions as I can and what you want to do, but I'm only human, and at the end of the day, these are only tips and pointers. So, yeah, no, you've got to do a bit of thinking when it comes to your own faction as well. So, without further ado, let's get stuck in. So Angmar, the big boogeyman of Middle-earth at the moment. What can we do against such reckless hate? Well, what is Angmar, first of all, just in case you don't know what's going on with Angmar? They are primarily a horde kind of faction with a lot of orcs, but they also have very powerful casters, okay? And they like to switch off your heroes with the likes of ring wraiths, barrow wights, and they do have one absolute sledgehammer in the list, which is 𝐸𝐸𝐴𝐸, which everyone seems to be bringing, okay? Ever since 𝐸𝐸𝐴𝐸 and the Witch King combo came up quite a while back, everyone seems to be, that's the only way to play him. I don't agree, but sure, 𝐸𝐸𝐴𝐸's good in the right hands, and a lot of new players are finding out that 𝐸𝐸𝐴𝐸 needs to be in the right hands to do work. So, start with the basics. Their army bonus. Basically, as long as an Angmar orc is within 3 inches of a friendly spirit hero model, they get Terror special rule. So they can have scary orcs, which is fantastic. It just increases the value of your orcs. I mean, your orcs are already 5 points anyway. 6 points if you equip them. But, yeah, that's also scary 6-point models is really good, especially if it's a evil versus evil matchup, because evil just has absolutely pans courage, which kind of sucks. But never mind, okay? There's ways around that, because evil, guess what, guys? He has something called fury. That's a very good way to deal with courage things. And fury can sometimes just absolutely switch off the Dead Marsh Spectres, because you have to take a courage test, and if you fail it, the Dead Marsh Spectre can move you in a straight line for your full movement anywhere they want. But if you've got fury up, and the guys that they might want to move, like banners, or maybe even heroes, are within that fury range, happy days. Cool. You've just got rid of, I think they're 15 points per. So, yeah. Awesome. I mean, they're just going to have to get stuck in combat, and they're not amazing in combat. But this is not a review on Angmar, so I'm not going to go through everything. I'm going to tell you now what I think, from experience of playing as them and against them, Angmar's biggest weaknesses are. Okay. First big one. The big one that they're absolutely weak to is shooting. If you can shoot them, you're usually going to be okay. You're going to have a few turns at least shooting at them, depending on the scenario. Obviously, like Contest of Champions, I mean, you're right in front of each other, but unlucky. I hate that scenario anyway. But a lot of the scenarios you do start at a distance, so you can fire shots downrange before they get to you. And they're only like defense 4/5 orcs, so you should be able to pick a few of them off. Alright? So, the other thing that they suck with, and I'll go into more detail, I'm just listing them off now, is if they face anything that causes terror. Because, at the end of the day, Angmar Orc Warriors, courage 2. Okay? The spirits have got higher courage, but other than that, most of the things are courage 3 or 2. Which is actually pretty pants, even Wargs are courage 2. But Dead Marsh Spectres and things like that, Barrow Wights, I think are courage 6 or 5. Yeah, they're courage 6. Yeah, they've got an Orc Shaman. Doesn't have fury, so you probably won't ever see an Angmar Orc Shaman on the table. It's not worth the points. Angmar Orc Captains are way better, because they themselves can then start causing terror if they're near a spirit hero. Okay? That's, yeah. Terror, shooting. The last thing Angmar do not like is if you've got another powerful caster on your side. Okay? And it's not just to do damage, but that is handy. Okay? It's just the ability to reach out and do damage from a distance, as well as them. You also got some buff spells if you're playing as the good guys, which can really switch off a lot of Angmar's abilities. So, without further ado, let's break down. Shooting. Start with that. Okay, so, shooting. you've got multiple options of shooting. So if you've got things like artillery or siege, you can take out, if you're lucky, the big bad scary thing, so you can just ping the Witch King off if you're really lucky. But the things you want to be pinging off are the barrel wights as early as possible, because barrel wights are causing a lot of problems. 6-inch range, 4+ paralyze. Paralyze, in my opinion, is an absolutely broken spell that needs some attention. I don't think it will get attention, but I think it does. It's just too punishing for when it actually goes off, okay? Because if you're paralyzed, you're not prone, you're off your mount if you're on one, and on top of that, you automatically lose any fights you're in, and they get to double strike against you, no matter what it is. The amount of times I've paralyzed a big hero like Angmar, and then I've just had 3 orcs with 2-handed axes go into him and kill him, is ridiculous, okay? That is absolutely bonkers. So yeah, and then even if I don't kill him, he's probably going to be stuck like that next turn as well. But luckily for all you elf players out there, or if you've got the access to strength 3 bows or higher, so crossbows and things like that, a barrel wight is defense 7, so you only need 6s to kill him really. And they have no fate and only 2 wounds. And realistically, you're going to be looking at 1 to 2 barrel wights in a list. Okay, so if you take out the barrel wights, that's a lot that Angmar are losing. Hell of a lot. So if you can focus them down, go for it. That's awesome. Same again with siege. 1 shot, boom, barrel wight down. I love it. The other big model that you want to be focusing, if you can, is the Shade. Shade's a little bit tougher. It's got 3 wounds at defense 8. You can shoot it and just absolutely get lucky with your siege, but if you don't have access to siege, you can still shoot it. If you've got strength 4, you're wounding on 6s, 3 or less, probably 6s by 4/5s. So they are hard to take down, but not impossible. And now, that's if you've got strong shooting. If you've just... The other option with shooting is don't focus the heroes really, okay? Because, I mean, you can focus down Gullivar. Gullivar's not that tough. He's only defense 5, so you lovely dwarfs, not dwarfs, well, you're dwarves with crossbows, or elves, you're wounding him on 5s with your shots. And he goes down really quick, okay? You pump like 8 to 10 shots into him, it's not that hard to strip off 2-3 wounds. And then he starts losing attacks and courage. So you just shoot him straight away, and he's a big chunky model, heroic accuracy to re-roll in the waves. It's not impossible to take him down. And if he is, even if you take 2 wounds off him, he's suddenly got 2 attacks with monstrous charge instead of 4 attacks. That's pretty good. And if you cause terror on top of that, which quite a lot of elf heroes do, he's only courage 2 at that point. Ha! There you go. So that's pretty good. Yeah, the other option, if you don't want to focus down their heroes and stuff, is to just shoot the orcs. Okay? If you want to see an army absolutely run away, break them with shooting or combat. Just focus the orcs and kill the orcs if you can. Because once they're broken, they're pretty much screwed. And I've seen a lot of lists like sway too heavily into their heroes. So they'll spend 100 points on barrel wights. So that's, yeah, 2 barrel wights. They'll spend 100 points on the Shade. They'll spend 200 points on the Witch King. That's absolutely bonkers. Okay, that's way too much. Or even if you're only spending 160 on the Witch King, they can bring Gullivar. I have seen Gullivar, the Witch King, 2 barrel wights and a Shade in a list before. Not super, like, I don't think I'd ever do that. But he didn't have that many orcs and I just broke him. And the rest of the orcs kind of ran away whilst Gullivar's running around getting shot. You can, I mean, yeah, there you go. Just shoot. Once you've managed to shoot away, you should do decent damage. You definitely, if there's Gullivar on the field, you definitely want to shoot at him and then start shooting at orcs. If you've got stronger shooting, like I said, shoot at the coasts. But even if you don't, at that point, you want to try and have something that causes terror. Okay, so there's quite a few spells out there, like, you know, Thranduil's Crown, he could just auto-cast and make all his elves cause terror, which is absolutely crazy. Within 6 inches of him, there's a few other casters that can do that. I think Galadriel can do that and stuff. Now these Courage 2 orcs can't charge. Gullivar, if he's taken 2 wounds, is Courage 2 also. He can't charge. So, yeah, that's going to hurt. Right, yeah. That's where terror comes in. If you stop them from charging you and you can pick where you fight, 100% awesome. It's sometimes better to lose priority to Angmar. In some cases, if you're not in immediate threat to your heroes with their casters, within range of their casters, because then their main line can fail courage tests, and you know where the main fights are, and you can jump on them. Or if they fail completely to charge you, or only get 1 in, you can then focus fighting orcs that aren't within the Shade's chill aura. Things like that. Now let's talk magic, okay? So magic is quite key to use against Angmar, I find, okay? As a heavy Wraith player, I mean, Angmar's not really a massive drama for me because I've got Ring Wraiths anyway. And the reason Ring Wraiths are so powerful is because they have a little spell called Sap Will, which things like Barrel Wights hate. Because if you get rid of Barrel Wights' will, it can't do anything, okay? Yeah, I mean, 2 black darts from a Ring Wraith will kill a Barrow Wight, and there's nothing he can really do about it. Okay, it goes off on a 5-up. On average, I like to roll 2 to 3 dice on a black dart. 2 if I'm feeling spicy. It usually goes off, and then it's a 3+ to wound. Yeah, it's easy peasy, just like that. And if he's only got 1, then perfect. Okay, the other thing that the Ring Wraiths have that is absolutely fantastic for dealing with Angmar is a little spell called Compel. So why Compel is so strong is it's got 12-inch range, goes off easy, it's on a 4+, but you can move their shade out of where you think combat's going to be, and the shade can decide to spend its will resources, which it needs to do its chill aura, to try and stop it, or it lets itself get moved. I mean, you could fail to cast it, but unlucky. And moving it 6 inches, that's massive. You can just move it out of the battle for a while and then have a whole round of no shade, which is fantastic. Yeah, you can also do these things to Barrow Wights. So if your hero wants to get to a certain point but he's got defended by Barrow Wight, just chin that Barrow Wight off and send him away. He can either spend will to try and stop it, and that's a win because he's losing will and he's only got 5, or it goes off and he's not in threat range because you can't move again after you've compelled something away. Transfix, similar, you keep them in the same spot but they can't do anything basically, so no casting spells for you. Now, swiftly moving on, we're going to go on to magic, more magic. So we're going to go to the good side of magic though, okay? I've spoken about Ring Wraiths. Okay, Ring Wraiths against Angmar hurts Angmar because they've got a lot of offensive spells. But what do you do with casters on the good side? Well, the good casters are usually more expensive. I'm looking at things like Galadriel or Gandalf the White, okay? But they're so good. Like, they're worth their points, okay? So if you play pretty much Minas Tirith, Rohan, Fiefdoms, and there's another one, I think it's like Army of the Dead or something, you can ally in, or just straight up have Gandalf the White, who is fantastic at dealing with Angmar. Okay, he's got Immobilize, he's got Command, so I brought them up before. Okay, he's got Banishment. Now Banishment, target a spirit model, cool, and they just take a wound. Love it. Okay, that's awesome. That's terrifying because, I mean, try and resist it. And all the spirits in Angmar, apart from like Ring Wraiths, don't have fate. So you can guarantee there's no rolling like the Black Dart to wound them. Very strong. The other thing that you have is a gorgeous little spell called Fortify Spirit, which I absolutely despise as a Wraith player. And what you do is you pick a friendly model within 12 inches, cast on a 3+, and whenever anything attacks them with a spell, or any kind of spell that they can resist, you get 2 free dice to resist it on top of your normal will that you would spend. That's insane. On top of that, if you channel it, you roll the 2 dice, and then the highest of the 2, you get +1 to. So realistically, you need to roll a 5 up on 2 dice to roll a 6 to guarantee stopping a spell. There's a 1 in 3 chance of stopping a spell on 1 dice, so yeah, I don't know what the maths, probably 50% or something. Who knows? If you're rolling 2 dice and you need a 5+. Probably like slightly less than 50%, more than 50%, but no, less. Yeah, anyway, I don't maths hammer. So that's very strong, very, very strong. So people that have that is Gandalf the White, and of course Galadriel, Lady of Light, version from The Hobbit, but you can't really ally her unless you start bringing extra models, which you can, because Gandalf the Grey is awesome. Okay, talking of Gandalf the Grey, okay, if you run, obviously the Fellowship, the Misty Mountains, Lothlorien or Rivendell, you can bring in Gandalf the Grey from the Fellowship. Now, the reason Gandalf the Grey is fantastic is because he's got a spell called Protection of the Valar, okay? 4+ to go off. It targets a friendly model within 3 inches, okay? Or the caster himself. The target may not be targeted by any enemy magical power or special rules. Special rules. So, Shade Aura, I mean, it's got here Golden King, Riches Beyond, Dead Marsh Spectres, Felllight is on them. That's it, switched off. Okay? That's amazing. Yeah. So you can then pop that on whoever your big hitter is, King Elisar, whatever, and they just can't be touched. Done. Okay? Both Gandalfs have Terrifying Aura. Okay? So, 6 inches, cast on a 2+, make your troops scary. Okay? Very good. And they also both have Sorcerer's Blast. Okay, Sorcerer's Blast is fantastic because not only does it do a strength 5 to hit to whatever you're hitting, so That's the not Dead Marsh Spectres, sorry, the Barrel Wights are being wounded on 5s. I mean, you're wounded 6s on the big guy, the Shade, but they get knocked D6 inches away and then hit another model and stop, and then they take a strength 3 hit. If you channel it, it just increases both the strengths by 1. Okay, so there's no real point channeling it unless you really, like, that Shade has like 1 wound left. So, yeah, why not? But, fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. It knocks them out of the way, and it can displace them to a position that's not good for them. And it's very good for dismounting Wraiths on Fell Beast or Horse, okay? And you will not see someone panic roll so much than when you successfully get a Sorcerer's Blast off on a Witch King on Fell Beast, and you roll a 6 to cast. Horrible. Okay? That's scary. That is some scary stuff. Of course, these are all green allies that I've been talking about to get Gandalf in your list if you want to bring Gandalf, like... if you want to bring the White Council, you need to bring an extra model, but whatever. You can go for yellow alliances, of course, which opens up so many more armies. So have a look in the alliance matrix and see what you can bring. Okay, so yeah, there's usually a way to wiggle it around. Like even Khazad-dûm or Moria, I guess it would be the Kingdom of Moria. You got Floy Stonehand, who can just switch off the Shades aura ability for 1 will, which is just nuts. So yeah, cheers for the 100-point model that's going to do absolutely nothing. Okay, you have access because I think, what was it, Rivendell are friends with everyone, and so a Lothlorien, and you can bring something called a Wood Elf Sentinel who does what the Dead Marsh Spectre does, and I'll put it this way, a Shade is Courage 1, so you can move them that way for 25 points if you really want. Obviously you've got to bring a hero as well, but like that's not a massive drama bringing like an elf captain or Galadriel or something. The last thing I want to mention is there's some heroes that are absolutely suited and booted just to deal with Angmar. Okay? And the first big one that comes to my mind is, of course, and he's harder to ally in because, you know, well, it makes sense when I say it. It is Elendil, High King of Gondor. And Arnor. So he's an 185 point monster, 195, 200 points, fully upgraded, okay? But he's an absolute beat stick. And he comes with Fortify Spirit built in even if he has no will. It's really hard to get a spell off on this boy. He is absolutely nuts. He's also Courage 7, I think. Yeah, friendly Numenor models increase their Courage by 1. He's Courage 7 if you've got the army bonus up, which is just, yeah, he's not going to fail. Okay? And I think if anyone's going to one-bang, like, Gulliver, it's going to be this dude who's Fight 7, right? Because Gulliver doesn't even have Strike. Like, everyone's terrified of him, but obviously there's the, like, Transfix combo and then charge Gulliver in. But... yeah, just get him in, strike, and boom, you're gonna get him. If you cast a couple of, shoot a couple of bows into Gulliver and wound him as well, like he's only got 2 attacks. Like yeah, Buck Shoot, like easy kill. The other big wig, Mama Jam, that I can think of is a lovely little elf called Glorfindel, Lord of the West, and this guy's a beatstick. He's also Fight 7 with elven made weapons. So awesome, hand and half sword. He's 145 points, so he's cheaper. He's also got Fortify Spirit on him all the time. And does not need to have will in his store to keep it up. He's also 12-inch movement on Asfalath, who costs the same amount of points as a horse. And he can't be brutal power attacked. So he's very good at taking on Gulliver. Okay? Because Gulliver likes to rend things. So, yeah. And all that really translates to, in this case, is Gulliver's wounding on 4s instead of 3s. So, yeah, I mean, happy days. But you have got Strike. So, you're probably going to outfight him anyway. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. So, just to sum that up. Good shooting is a good counter. Causing terror is a good counter. Casting good magic that's either protective or offensive is a good counter. And finally, the right heroes, okay? Because like I said, if you manage to get a caster that can cast Fortify Spirit, then anyone can be an Elendil. Anyone can be a Glorfindel, okay? So King Elisar, like Thranduil, whatever. They can all do it. So good. Yeah. That's the main points. Okay? What I want you to take away from this is have a look at your alliance matrix and really have a good look to see what you can bring. If you do have an Angmar meta where you're at, or you're worried about them in a tournament, have a look. Just having one model that gives you some way of dealing with Angmar will make a massive difference to your game against them. Whether it be just a Wood Elf Sentinel, whether it be, you know, a Ring Wraith. Yeah, you know, Ring Wraiths, no points at all really. You can make them as cheap or as expensive as you really want. and there's usually a way to squeeze them in your list. Even if you keep them with like no might and 7 will, no fate. He's just there so he can reach out and pop off a spell if he needs to. They've also got Harbinger of Evil, so if you manage to have a combination of causing terror and then bring a Ring Wraith, all those orcs are now courage 1. Gullivar starts at courage 3. Oh, there's a debate about how that works, but because he's always got his courage is always what his wounds are. But you know what I mean. It doesn't matter. It's more about the orcs. Wargs are courage 1, and then you break them and they're all running at courage 1. You know, use your spells to black dart the barrel whites. Happy days. Downside is not all factions have an answer. So something like Goblin Town. I mean, have fun. Like, your best bet is to have the Goblin King just soak up everything, but he's probably going to die to black darts anyway. Yeah, just chucking loads of goblins. I don't know what to do with Goblin Town really against Angmar. They've got no shooting, they've got no terror, apart from the Goblin King. I mean, you can throw goblins and get really lucky. Chariots are pretty good at dealing with Angmar because they don't need to roll courage tests because they're doing it in their movement phase, and you could literally just destroy the front line of orcs and then hit the shade, and now the shade's in combat. That's like fight value 1. And if it's like a Candish King on a chariot, if you roll a 6, he moves it down to a 5, you just might it back up and then kill the shade in one shot. Like, impact hits are pretty solid. Just bring a Mummock. There you go, that's the answer. Just bring a Mummock. I mean, it's probably going to get compelled, but you get the point. Let me know in the comment section down below if any of this helps you, or if there's anything you think I've missed, because there probably is. There probably is. But I like to hear from people, so let me know, okay? Let me know. And if you liked this content, do like the video, so I know people want this kind of content. And if you're feeling especially saintly today, do consider subscribing, okay? We also have a fantastic Discord with lots of people, so you can ask me questions in, like, over direct message. How do I deal with such faction? Like, a few pointers. Always happy to help. On top of that, I do have things like, Instagram and the Facebook page and stuff. Yeah, like, follow it if you want. But even if you don't do any of those things, I still hope you have an absolute fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.